Hello, audiologists of Turkey. This is Dr. Richard Israel, the first teacher of audiology in Turkey, and I've been asked to give a brief summary of the background of how I got there and that sort of thing. So let me just start off with a little background. It goes back to the late 1950s and early 60s when Dr. Nazmi Hoshal was doing a residency at the Washington Hospital in Washington, D.C., where he observed the audiology clinic of Dr. David Resnick, and he observed that they prepared tremendous value in terms of diagnostic information for surgical procedures such as stapedectomy, which was just coming in at that time. At any rate, Dr. Hoshal returned to Turkey and for a number of years worked with Dr. Mesaji at Hacettepe University to try to get audiology implanted at Hacettepe University. And finally, after a good number of years, Dr. Mesaji worked with the United States AID, Agency for International Development, to partially fund a program. Meanwhile, in 1969, I was teaching at Gallaudet College, now at Gallaudet University in Washington, D.C. And at that time, I was looking to make a change, and American Speech and Hearing Association had a publication called Trends, which was essentially a listing of jobs available around the United States and around the world. And on the very back page was an announcement for an international opening in Turkey, part-time position, meaning 2 years. So at the time, my family, my wife at the time, and two very young children, like 3 and 5 or 6 years old, we were very interested in that. We were sort of wanderlusters at the time, and so I applied for this job, and next thing I know, we have an invitation to go up to New York to meet with the people who were sponsoring this, called Education and World Affairs. And we were interviewed to see whether we would be suitable not to teach audiology, but to become visiting professors in Turkey, which at the time was considered a developing country. And we were honored to be selected. And in the late summer of 1969, my family and I drove through Europe and arrived in Ankara, and was met by a representative of the university, İlhan Kum, who became our intermediary. And he asked me which student population I should reach out to seek students. Now, there was one individual already working in the ear, nose, and throat department with Dr. Hoshal. That was Errol Belgin, working as an audiology technician. And since audiology was primarily a branch of experimental psychology, there were very few electrophysiological tests. The only one at the time was really newly developed emittance or impedance audiometry. Everything else was behavioral, and since audiology was largely based on experimental psychology, I asked to find students from the psychology department. And that's where we uncovered the wonderful Ferda Aktaş, Ayşen Erdil, and Nevma Atay at the time, and Zera. I've forgotten Zera's last name. And these 5, including Errol, became my students, and we had a wonderful relationship. I designed a curriculum based upon American Speech and Hearing Association program, a 2-year program for a master's in audiology. And this was a wonderful program because we would go directly from the classroom into the clinic, and we would be able to apply almost instantaneously what we were doing, what we were discussing in the classroom, into the clinic. And it was a highly useful demonstration type of teaching program. And after the 2 years, students got their degrees, and then I went back to the United States. And interestingly, when I originally interviewed in New York for the job, they were concerned that I might have some problem with dealing with this developing country. Well, the problem was that we had tremendous anxiety in returning to the States. We loved living in Turkey. Had a wonderful time there, and had a great difficulty returning to the United States. In Turkey, through the program I met many wonderful Turks, and as well as international other visiting professors, and we had a wonderful time. I love to learn the Turks. I learned to love the Turks, my students, and everything about the country, and especially a delicious taste for the national drink. So at this moment I toast the raki, my friends, and I wish you all a wonderful career in audiology. And thank you for having me, Paul.